Yeah, I felt like he was the guy that could get the most out of our defense, and I thought our defense underperformed the most. So I thought that was the right choice, but there's no way that's what John Schneider was, entirely thinking about. There was all kinds of other things about his leadership and, being able to put guys in the right spot, getting the most out of your players, and that's what a head coach does.
Any chance he could bring some of those free agent Raven defenders over?
Yeah, I was just
Patrick
thinking that.
Queen want to come over? Or?
Yeah, I was Matabuike.
I like that guy.
I think Gino Stone also is. I was talking to Son of Augustafson. He's writing up an article about that very thing, and I was thinking the same thing. I mean, to get your defense going, you got Jadeveon Clowney also. Jadeveon Clowney also was on that defense and played probably better. And
maybe his best season.
It's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at like the numbers and the way that he's freed up, but to me, Patrick Queen definitely stands out as a linebacker that can run. He's dropping, he's playing the run. He pretty much understands that defense, and they do need linebackers. There's no question about that. So I think that, as all things being equal, if somebody's going to pay him, Patrick Queen, way more money than the Seahawks want to pay, I'm sure they're going to let him go. But if everything is equal, I think he wouldn't mind, if he's thinking about leaving, go somewhere where the defense and you know how to run it. That's pretty attractive offer there.
Yeah, I love this. I'm excited about this. I was, we talked about it a bunch. To me, it was him or Ben Johnson, and it was 1 and 1A. I would have been ecstatic either way. Like that, I just felt like it's an inspired pick. Doesn't mean it'll work out. I mean, but I give John a ton of credit. I mean, he's going for it. He could have gone. The safe pick to me would have been Dan Quinn, because you know him. He's familiar. He's been here. He's got a coaching resume as a head coach. So that would have been the safe. And maybe it works out. Maybe Dan Quinn is. I don't know if he's going to land with the Commanders or what happens with him, but. Maybe he has a ton of success, and we'll see how it all plays out. But even if this doesn't work out, I feel like I'm not going to be mad at John. I feel like this was an inspired move, and it's a shift. And it's I mean, to go from the oldest coach in the NFL to a guy who's exactly half his age, the youngest coach in the NFL, and giving him a first-time opportunity. And we talked about what a big deal this is for John Schneider to get this right. He's been here 14 years, his first opportunity to bring in a head coach. And, there's a little different expectation, I think, than if he were a GM who just got brought into the building. So, to me, it's an inspired choice. I love it. I can't wait to see what it looks like under
Inspired,
under
meaning like it's going to get people fired up.
Yeah, there was just some he didn't take the safe way. He didn't take the safe route. Like I said, Dan Quinn to me represented, all right, I know pretty much what you're going to get out of this guy. This you don't really know. I mean, obviously he gleaned a lot from their conversation, so much so that they said, "You're our guy. Let's slide the contract in front of you. Let's get it done." But this isn't the safe pick, I don't think, because it's unproven. Nobody has any idea what kind of coach he's going to be, what kind of coach Ben Johnson would be, or any of these coordinators that have yet to assume that amount of responsibility.
Yeah, and as far as the track record goes,
yeah,
sure.
You're taking a risk. It represents a level of risk. Now, this guy, by all accounts, is a brilliant mind, and everybody obviously he dazzled in the interviews, so you feel good about it if you're John. But if he wanted to go safe and I just get some stability and I know exactly what I'm going to get out of this guy, he could have gone with Dan Quinn.
Yeah. Well, and look, here's the other thing too, is that I think the culture. One of the things and rightfully so, we give a lot of credit to Pete for setting the culture there. I mean, he was the head guy. John's got a lot of say in that, and like the humility and the way that they treat everybody. I feel like, he's, as far as a departure from the identity, I don't think it's going to be as much as everybody thinks, just because John's still there and he had, he knew everybody in the building, and, he had his stamp on the culture as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it's a young guy, he's 36 years old, he had this meteoric rise, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like Kalen DeBoer. It's kind of fascinating. It's like, what is it about this guy? And it'll be so interesting to get, number one, can't wait to see who he hires and why. Mm-hmm. And that the explanation of what this guy can bring. I mean, that's going to be very, very curious. And then just see what the players say after having had a couple of his practices, and things like that. And by the way, everybody's going to have to start all over again because he's going to have a different idea on just stupid little things like how we practice. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks had that thing forever where they would go out and stretch and then they would all run through the bags. And remember all the assistant coaches would come over there and jump up and down and yell and do jumping jacks and everything.
Love that.
Well, I mean, if I was a coach, I don't know that I would have participated in that part, but I mean, that was just totally different. That's what Pete's deal was. And look, Pete, it worked. What he did worked, no question about it. It's just a different way. So, my point is that you're going to have everything is going to be different. Everything is going to change, but it's still football. And you're going to have to learn, some new vocabulary, and everybody calls things differently in the NFL. And there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment there, but I'm really excited to see, number one, what we hear from him. And then when we get a chance to talk to Schneider, tell us about this whole hunt for a head coach and, what each guy brought to the table and, what you thought, what you were looking for, and what makes this guy so special.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what stood out in this conversation versus others. And just his method, just his first time doing it, I think is very cool. And how did he attack it? We talked about it yesterday. Did you have a list of, 10 questions you were going to ask every single person you talked to? They were all going to get those 10, but then you had the unique questions based on what their background was that applied only to them. Or it's a cool thing. It's exciting. I'm fired up for this team and to see what he's going to do. It's to have something brand new. I mean, this isn't a knock on Pete, but you just kind of went into each season knowing what you're going to get. Here's Pete. Here's how he talks. Here's how you parse Pete. This is what he means when he says this, and you just got used to it. It was kind of like a comfortable pair of shoes. This is how it goes. I know exactly what we're in store for. And you had varying levels of success each season, but this is to have just this dramatic change after 14 years. It'll be an adjustment for fans and media.
Well, I think the other thing that this went so well is, again, I was wrong. I thought the reason why they let Pete go early is because that they had somebody, the window was going to close. He's had his eye on this guy. It's the opposite of that. And what they did is went through, for us, kind of a painful process. It's like, come on, we want to know who the coach is. But John went through and, did his due diligence on every single coach. And yet still, it seems like they got the guy that they wanted. Because he's kind of a dark horse for a 36-year-old guy who, hasn't played football and things like that. So, I think you said the safe bet would have been Quinn. I still think there's not a huge difference between these young coaches and the older coaches and things like that, but it does kind of indicate that he went and found somebody that, somebody said something about Goodwill Hunting. Quit trying to look for, the janitor that's
the genius, the secret genius or whatever.
Exactly. And I don't know if maybe that's the way they see him, but it's pretty remarkable to look at, number one, what people say about him. And then, we broke it down yesterday and rolled the tape. There was some pretty cool tape where he was kind of going through and saying that it's pretty simple, the things that they do, and just his concept, the way he looks at football, is going to be really interesting to see this guy sort of unroll and see what he's all about. I can't wait.